How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Fnordcon Virtual 6. I am Ben Williams. I'm here to do a painting stream with an Ogre Mark 1 from Ogre Miniatures Set 4. I've got Jimmy, Hunter, and Brandon in here with me.
Hey, folks.
Hey.
So hope you guys are all having a good time. And I'm just going to go ahead and start painting. Well, why don't we put this guy on the turntable first, actually. Everybody can get a good look. Let's see, where's the center point? There we go. Is that right? No, it needs to be about there. So, a little glary, but yep, it is a Mark 1. He seemed kind of like the star of this new mini set, so that's the one I primed up to get ready for the paint stream, but there's also going to be lots of tanks, lots of hovercraft, heavy tanks, all the cool stuff.
Is the hovercraft full of eels?
No.
What?
That's a weird question. Are hovercrafts full of eels?
Is that a reference?
From time to time?
Depends on how you translate it, but yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And we'll probably end up painting more of the little stuff in future streams, but for now we've got the Ogre Mark 1. So, because we already have a red Mark 2 and a red Mark 3, I figured I'd just go ahead and do this one red as well. Nobody in the studio had any really strong feelings about what color it should be, so red is what it's going to be. How would you guys paint your ogres?
Leopard print, definitely.
Leopard print, that would be a cool one.
Jimmy has a high confidence in his ability, so...
Oh, no, it would look awful.
I've done leopards before, leopard stuff. I have a goblin riding a leopard bunny rabbit that I'm rather proud of.
Wow, that's impressive.
Nice.
It's a giant bunny rabbit, so... I mean, it's big enough for a goblin to ride in 28mm scale. So that's how giant it is. It's still a miniature.
I don't think I've ever actually seen a Mark 1. I've seen all the... Like, because regular Ogre starts with the Mark 3, right?
2.
Mark 2. And I think
The
the
2
big
is
box...
the one, I believe, with the dual cannons on the front.
So I've seen I think my first exposure for Ogres was always the 2 and the 3.
Yeah.
Because the 2 and the 3 has like the almost 2 chassis system, like it's almost carrying a second little half of it there.
Although I may be mistaken. It may be... Maybe
I think
the
you're
big
right.
one with the 3 guns is the Mark 5.
Is it 3 and 5? I think it's 3 and 5.
Yeah.
I've seen...
I think the 4 is kind of a weird one.
I think the 2
Like
came
that
out...
might be the Ninja or something.
That might be it, yeah. It might be 3 and 5.
I believe 4 is the Ninja, yeah.
Yeah.
The core set Ogres are Mark 3 and Mark 5.
Okay, that's what I was... So those are my first exposure with it. And then I've seen the Ninja, but I've really never seen a lot of the lower than 3 ones. I've seen like the Doppel whatever thing.
That's technically not
That's
an
not
ogre.
it's not an
'cause
ogre, it's
that's
like
The
the
Doppelsoldner.
Doppelsoldner, and that's like the opposite of... Not the
Yeah.
opposite, but like the
It's the other faction's
other
super
faction's
tank,
big tank.
which my ogre lore should be better, but I'm pretty sure they are also intelligent, self-aware machines of war in the same way that the ogre is.
Someone in chat thinks that's a Mark II.
Oh, maybe it is a Mark II.
Could be.
So if this is a Mark II, somebody find it what a Mark 1 looks like.
Yeah. So I haven't seen either Mark II or a Mark 1, so this is my first exposure to both of them. Either way, it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a neat little thing. I like it's got this very sort of a sleeker profile. It has this sort of nose coming out the front.
Yeah, it's a way different look.
Yeah, but it still has the command tower. It still has secondary batteries, so you know it's an ogre. And of course, the longtime fans will remember that these did exist in metal once upon a time, so now they are back. This one is plastic, if anybody was wondering.
Yep, we're doing them all in plastic. Excuse me, I did miss our last hobby stream.
Mm-hmm.
That
was Carl.
is there a wet palette on the table?
Yeah.
He's not
This is
painting
not-
on his
this is
hand.
not
When did
the
this
first
change?
time.
No.
This is
He's
not the
not-
first time you've seen
He is still
this.
painting on his hand. He's just not doing it as much. Okay.
I will sometimes draw the brush across my hand to get
This
a
is-
fine
But
point
yeah,
on
you
it.
did
I-
miss the debut of the wet
Yeah,
palette.
I'm aware.
I feel certain that he did not.
No,
but
I
maybe
was
I'm
not. I
mistaken.
wasn't here for the wet palette.
I thought
I
he's
have.
had it a few times now.
I thought this was my third time to
Yeah,
have it,
yeah.
and you
I
were
don't
here
think I
the
was.
first time,
I don't remember
but
that.
not the second. And the second time, you were all acting like you'd never seen it before.
Well, I'm acting like I
even
haven't seen it
though
before. I knew you
thought
had used
that
it at home. I
you
just didn't expect
had.
it to make its way to the office.
Well, I can't really use these dropper bottle paints without.
That's fair.
A
That's
wet
fair.
palette.
That's true because you got to change from P3 to
Right.
AK, and yeah, your drop a bottle. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. You can just drop it on your hand.
Yeah.
Just be like squeeze it onto your wrist.
And speaking of that, since Hunter is bringing it up, I am using these AK. Ooh, which way are we going to do the camera? These AK acrylics. We've talked about their names before, like how normally the hobby companies come up with like blood red and like goblin eye red, but the AK guys are happy with deep red, and don't need to get any more ludicrously descriptive than that. Although we do have
What?
like wine red, which is yeah, but it's still
That's
not,
actually a
like,
useful
red
description, though.
carnage.
Deep
Yeah,
red.
That's a very useful.
Yeah, it's
I
like a-
just used a paint called Sigvald Burgundy, so I would rather just call wine red.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been extremely tempted by that line, but I'm like, I have so many Vallejo paints and Citadel paints. Like, do I really need it?
They go really well with
But they
Vallejo.
look good. Yeah, they look very similar to Vallejo.
Vallejo are a little thicker coming out the bottle, and they don't do quite as well in the wet palette. They tend to dry a little bit faster. This stuff seems to just keep forever.
I need to try that because they
On a
actually
wet
gave me.
palette.
I think at I think it was at Gamma last year. They gave me a few
They gave
sample. Yeah, I was at the AK booth and they gave me
Really?
like 3 sample bottles. I
you.
just
Well, that's
never
nice
used
of
them.
And they're Spanish, right?
Are they? I believe they might be. I
Let
know
me see.
Vallejo is.
Made in Spain.
Spain making good paints, man.
Yep.
Making some good paints over there. Love it.
Another vote from chat that is a Mark II, since
There we
the
go.
Mark
We're-
1 doesn't have secondary batteries.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the difference.
Okay. So then that makes me wonder: is there a Mark One in this set at all? Well, thanks for the correction, though. I just look at it and it looks little, so it must be a Mark One.
we
Right?
keep
But I guess
being
I'm
intentionally
I'm way
uneducated.
worse. No, I should know that. I mean, I worked on the Ogre Designers Edition and stuff. So I simply cannot visualize a Mark One now. So I wonder what it even looks like.
It's just those are rarely used designs. Usually you start at Mark III because that's what's in the starter. So it's like,
Yeah.
usually a lot of people don't go down from there, they go up.
Right.
Like,
Mark 1 and 2, as this is a 2.
people looking for like Ogre Thulus and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever do plastic of that. Don't mention Ogre Thulu, because people will be like, "Oh, when are the plastics for those coming out?"
Sorry, yeah, I shouldn't have said that.
Darn it, Hunter.
Probably never.
My bad.
But yeah, you gotta have a special weird scenario for a Mark 2 or 3, I assume, right?
Yeah. But I mean, everything's a matter of balancing with the points and stuff.
Right. Maybe for like a really quick game, you do
Mhm,
a Mark
mhm.
1.
Or you do like a game with multiple ogres.
Yeah, that would be fun too.
I imagine they come out in a lot more of the bigger GEV scenarios where you've got the larger maps and more
Yeah,
divisions
and that's to be
stuff.
fair. I haven't seen a lot of GEV stuff. Whenever I think of ogre and I think of GEV, it's always like my idea of like squad leader and advanced squad leader. It's like not to the same scale because advanced squad leader, if you've ever seen, has like a rule book that's a freaking binder. But like there's like there's like the game, and it's like there's a lot of stuff to do, and then you add like, if you decide to go to the advanced squad leader or something, it's like you have rules for if a soldier's riding bicycles, what's the modifier on that if he shoots.
Mm,
so like with GEV, I'm always thinking like, okay, that's like ogre advanced essentially. It gives you like a lot more stuff to do.
Yeah, it gives you like there are
Not
a
a
lot more
lot, a
maps.
lot.
There's more terrain rules involved.
Yeah, not in the same way of
More
advanced squad
vehicles.
leader, but it's like but to a degree, it's like, to me that's how I think of it. Sorry, I went a little grognard old school war games on that one.
no, that's cool. I mean, we are painting an ogre, man. It's fine.
That's true.
So I think one of the things that like I was thinking about this as I was cleaning it and priming it
Mhm.
last night. Because these are like self-aware AIs, I was wondering like, is this Mark II? Would it be like smarter or like wiser than a Mark V if it's still actually out there? Because it's been
Oh.
around for longer, right? It's been like creeping around the battlefields.
So maybe
blowing
not
stuff up.
stronger,
It's
but it's
made
like
it this far. Yeah, right. Like, could it?
Huh.
would it like have sage battlefield advice as like a veteran of mini combats, or is it just an old model that once it's blown up, we're just going to replace it with a newer one?
I mean, if it's still around,
Yeah, I mean it must be kind of clever, right, to make
Right.
it this far. It's earned a new coat of paint, if nothing else, right?
Presuming the Mark Fives don't and threes don't survive their fights, right?
Right, but this one would have been
they just
even
haven't
older,
been
right?
around as long.
This would have been maybe, I don't know, 10 years older, have that much more combat experience.
What's the design has been, but they don't necessarily stop making the smaller, cheaper things just because they can make the bigger, more expensive ones.
That's true. We're just pretending that this is like one of the first.
Yeah, if it's been around more, then it probably has more battles to pull from.
All right, I'm getting out a little bit of Prussian blue now. I'm going to mix that with the wine red to try to get some darker, almost sort of purple shades.
Of course, a lot
to
of that,
really make some of this red pop.
a lot of that's still like if you're doing fiction on that, a lot of especially 80s fiction that deals with computers in general treats them as individual units, and because they really didn't have there was not really a big concept of massive worldwide networks at that point. Like if you were writing the ogre fiction today, they'd be terrifying because every ogre would have the benefit of all ogres' combat logs,
Right.
right?
And of course, it also depends on how you want to write it, because maybe
Right, you can-
maybe there might have been some reason why they had to shut down networks like that.
Yeah, you
Maybe
can do
there's just
that.
too much malware, spyware, too many viruses out there.
Like Star Wars has just a huge gap in not being able to communicate to each other outside of very short ranges.
Oh, they don't have like faster than light speed.
Right, like their long range communications are those little super shaky blue holograms that he gets from the Emperor and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Right, like they get that, but like they got to get these plans like off the Death Star into another ship, and
Yeah,
they have
that's
to do
true.
it in a droid instead of just beaming it over.
'Cause it's, well,
Big
maybe
difference
'cause
in
it's-
Trek and Wars there. Trek has like massive long range communications, and Star Wars does not.
Yeah, they never really go into any of the sci-fi, or the sci of the fi, I guess I should say. At least not in the movies.
Star Wars
So you don't really
was more
know.
space opera than like straight up like
It's more of a
Yeah.
fantasy story.
yeah.
They got
Exactly.
swords.
Well, it's funny because when I was growing up, there was a Blockbuster that I rented a lot of movies from, and that Blockbuster, they were weird because they had a fantasy section. This was in like the early 90s, and that was actually where they had Star Wars. And I was always kind of like, oh yeah, I think that might be right, because there's no real science. None of this story is about science. It is all about, the adventure and the characters and the weird magic Jedi tricks.
Right.
So yeah, it always is kind of weird when you're suddenly asked to like think about any science at all in Star Trek.
Practical physics of Star Wars.
And you know what? I was about to start griping about the sequels, but let's not do that. Let's just change the subject. That's not what anybody's here for. All right. So, one of the tricky things about red is when you highlight red, often the red itself is one of your strongest highlight colors, because more than that, and you get pink. So you have to shade with a really deep red to make that pop, and that's part of why I was just mixing in that Prussian blue to get it darker, so that this red will pop that much more. Anybody out there? Was anybody out there a backer of the old Designer's Edition? You got that like 40 pounds of ogre in a big box tucked away somewhere?
I still see those pop up occasionally where people will just post like, just pick this up, and they'll have a big picture of the Designer's Edition where they find it from someone who's selling it, or they found a new one. Saw a guy post on the board game group on Facebook. It's been a while now, but a few months, but he found a new one at a game store somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Still had one in stock. Picked it up. It's like, that's a heck of a find.
Yeah, I think it was before your time, Hunter, but
Yeah, it was when I got
Jimmy
hired.
at least, and maybe Brandon. I can't remember exactly when you started. We all.
I started
When-
during that project.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I came in 2016, and y'all were still talking about that project.
We'll still
Right.
talk about it.
We're still talking. Yeah, we're still talking about it right now. But yeah, we all went to the launch event. And,
Yeah. Y'all rented out like a whole thing
Yep.
and where y'all were shipping from, right? Like a little mini warehouse essentially. That,
It was
It was part of a strip mall.
It was previously like a furniture store, so it
Yeah,
had all
yeah.
those. You know how they have like those bays where they will like set up a different like living room or
Mhm,
whatever set up. So it had a lot of those bays, and those were just filled with boxes, like crates of the Ogre stuff. And
Wow.
so our warehouse staff was split, some here, some up there, and a lot of extra volunteers and stuff were up there, just processing and shipping those, and then we used the main area for the launch party.
yeah. That sounds like fun. We did finally. Oddly enough, yes, I was here after that project, but I was technically here when the project finally completed its last stretch goals. So
The
that
music?
was funny. No, the last stretch goal was Car
It
Wars,
was running Car Wars.
Oh
yeah.
right.
and technically it didn't deliver until when it got our
Well,
Australia
it
shipments.
was running the campaign.
Yeah, that's true. We
So-
created a new Car Wars, so that's when it finally ended. That was the end of the original Ogre Kickstarter.
Was-
It only took us.
I sure hope that
7 years.
nobody
7
backed
years.
that giant Ogre Designers Edition just for the Car Wars Kickstarter.
Oh, they did. No, I'm joking.
I mean, maybe they did.
They did it for the soundtrack.
There,
If they're here, they can
there
do it.
was a level there to encourage it. That was they got a Car Wars T-shirt, and the promise is like if we hit the stretch goal, we'll also do that. So they got their Car Wars T-shirt and contributed to the stretch goal of doing the Car Wars.
Didn't it
project.
say like I made Steve Jackson work on Car Wars or
Yes.
something?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do. I still see those at conventions occasionally.
Yeah, I saw one in an elevator at BGG Con one year.
Yeah, Eric said he managed unloading all those containers.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Too
was
big
he
to
was in the middle
palletize.
of all of that.
Yeah, it was too big to palletize, so they just had 7 shipping containers worth of individual boxes.
Yeah, and I remember going there for whatever reason and seeing them all stacked up.
Yep.
I think a lot of us ended up having to help out in there at least a little
I think
bit.
it was all hands on deck for that launch party,
Yeah, we had a launch party. You're probably there.
and a lot of people had to go help ship and move them as well. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think it ended up there for at least a little bit of that. But it was very cool at the time because that was the record breaker for board games
Yeah.
for a little while.
2012,
Wow, 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years of Ogre Designers Edition. Sort of. Wasn't that the year Avengers came out too? A lot of big, exciting things going on, for sure.
It was.
And like
2012
we,
was the year we did the Kickstarter, not the.
oh, okay, that wasn't the year we delivered it.
No, it was not.
But yeah, speaking of Kickstarters, that's what's going to end up happening with these Mark IV minis. They're going to end up going to Kickstarter, although we don't have a date.
No, because we also have
Set form
the Fantasy Strip Foes 2 going to Kickstarter. Well, another miniatures that's STL based.
Yep.
which
And
those
I
are
was-
cool. We painted some of those. If you go to our YouTube channel and look back to our SJGames live streams, there's one where Ben painted up some of the rats and
A rat
plague
and a
rats and
snake, yep.
snakes from that Foes 2 set.
And Jean has been taking part in the Jean McGuire has been taking part in a lot of our Fnordcon stuff.
Yep,
And,
she's hanging around.
She's part of that team as well.
Yep, she's on the team that does the designs and prints on those and everything.
Irene's been helping with painting as well, which is nice.
Cool.
Been got a little backup.
Well, it was just so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but y'all are doing a great job.
And it's got a lot of cool stuff in it. I was a little jealous. She got to paint some of the cool ones, and I'm sure she would have liked to have painted some of the ones I got to paint.
Yeah, but
But she got a big giant lizard.
remember, you got Long
and that's
Lincoln,
what- Yeah, I did get Long Lincoln.
so and there's no beating Long Lincoln. No beating the Lincoln.
If you were an adventurer and turned the corner and saw that thing,
Sure, I'd be.
He's a creepy.
I wouldn't be scared. I'd just be like, "What's up, Lincoln?
He's a
You're so
creepy
long
creep."
today."
And then he would eat you. Then you would be
And
eaten.
Hunter would die.
I dap up Lincoln. What's up, man?
What was his name? Gold something.
He'd be so surprised that I know his
Gold
name is
something?
Lincoln.
Hunter's TFT character.
Oh my god. What was that character name? That was such a fun little thing. The when the
Zodiac dice?
yeah, when the rune dice or whatever comes out, we should do that again.
Yeah.
That was
Make more
fun.
characters, yeah.
Yeah, that was a blast.
I saw a sample of it out there, so it should
Yeah,
be
it's
that
out
much
the
longer.
rune. I'm not gonna get that name right ever. Rune
The
Thorn-
Elder Futhark.
Elder
D24.
not happening,
24
guys.
sided
I
rune casting
appreciate
die.
it. I appreciate y'all's correction. I will accept the correction every time because I cannot
You can't remember Futhark?
rune or elder.
Elder
Nope.
Futhark.
Nope.
Food
not-
dark.
Thank
Futhark.
you guys. I appreciate you saying the word Futhark a lot.
No problem.
I'll
Futhark's
get
a
it. Like
great
once y'all
word.
say it,
It's
I
just a
can
great
remember
word
it and
to
get it.
say.
But it's a word that I literally just can't remember. I can't remember.
I've never heard it said out loud.
Oh, that's true. It could be like
Yeah, we could be
the
offended
Futhark.
an
We could
entire
all be
like
Futhark.
getting it horribly mangled.
yeah. There's a lot of northern tribes that are getting really pissed at us.
Or just
But it's a
Viking
similar
lactose.
similar function essentially. It's like the Zodiac die. It's a pretty cool die.
We have
A lot of people
question
have been
in
looking
chat.
forward to
What
that.
is your general process for painting? Looks like you're building up from the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that typically what
I
you do, or-
basically I'll start. I usually start.
You kind of start
Kind
in
of
the
the
medium.
mid-tone.
Yeah, I was gonna say you seem to start in the mid tone and you shade from there and you highlight. So it's kind of like
Yeah, because if you start with too much, I mean, I think it's weird. I see people on YouTube and Instagram start with black, and I just don't understand because for me, starting with the darkest color requires so much build up from there and so many more layers, and that's why I always start with the mid-tone because then you don't have to build up as much color for shading and for highlighting because you're right there in the middle already. However, some people do start with black, and I've seen people get amazing results with black. I think they're using some kind of magic space paint that I don't know how to find because I've seen people on Instagram just slap color right onto black and just not even have to do more than one layer. I don't know what they're using.
Magic space
Video
paint.
editing.
Well, I mean, maybe.
the magic space paint of Adobe Premiere.
But yeah. So yeah, then you kind of build it up. You can. What I like about these AK acrylics is they're really good at layering, where you don't necessarily have to do wet blending. They're fine if you do want to wet blend, but they're really good at just getting like a nice sort of glaze amount on your brush, and then you can just kind of stroke it over the darker color, and kind of get a nice transition going without having to wet blend, which, you know, it can just be a little bit more difficult to get it right the first time. But yeah, that's basically how I do it. Start with the mid-tone and then just build up and up and up until I've got my highlights and my shadows down. This guy's been a little tricky. If you're not watching from Austin, you don't know that we had some crazy weather last night, and I did not have this guy ready to go yet, so I had to take him out
it
and
got
prime him in the
cold.
crazy, rainy, windy weather. And it really probably needed more than just one coat of primer, and I only gave it the one because of how bad the weather was. I was worried. It was just not ideal priming weather. So I think a little bit of the black is showing through just in a few places. But, and also, if you want to do something red, this is something I have done in the past, but I didn't have any on hand. You can use red primer, and that will go, you know, a really long way to getting a nice solid red foundation. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
It's not cheating.
No,
Just-
absolutely not.
Just helping.
Philip did in our warehouse. He's the warehouse 23 manager. He had Blood Angels Army for 40K, and he primed him red with the Army Painter red primer, I believe, and it was great. Saved him a ton of time. He just did some, you know, from there. It tells you what you can do from there. Like if you want to just be like, cool, it's red, and I just paint the details, bingo bango. I think he did like washes and stuff for the, you know, get the recesses and whatnot. So it saves a ton of time.
Back when I played Warhammer Fantasy, I had a brown primer for my Skaven.
Heck yeah, dude.
Brown and then some metal for the armor.
I started doing terrain painting finally. I finally took a moment to stop and make some terrain, and I start with a chocolate colored primer, like I think it's called espresso or something like that, and it's like.
You've always made terrain. It's just painting the terrain.
No, I have a lot of terrain. It's just I haven't ever stopped to paint it. But I finally said I'm going to make a Kill Team's board worth of terrain for the Warhammer Kill Team. So, and I did it. It looks good. I really like the way it came out. But it was all spray can stuff. But going back to what you mentioned about the black primer, white primer thing. So I do black with the zenithal priming, which is a little bit different. But I know some people use black because they keep the black in the shadows instead of doing as much shading, so that might be part of it. You're probably looking at better painters than me, so they might be doing black for a completely different reason. But I know with some like
no, yeah, I'm talking about people just no zenithal priming. They have a jet black, black mini, and they just start putting paint on it, and it just looks great.
And
like,
you're probably looking at like real true artists too, because that's probably who you're following on there. For me, it's like if they're painting an army and they want to do black, it's probably because they're a large portion of the shadow or something in the armor or something or whatever the model is black in some way. Similar to what you're saying, like you can spray it red for that.
Yeah.
I know I have a plan for Black Templars and I keep trying to figure out how I'm going to do those. And it's like, I'm having to be like, do I just spray them black? Is that what I'm doing? Am I just doing that?
Eric says the 5-minute paint jobs we did for Car Wars, he had a really good red primer for the red ones on those.
Yeah, those colored primers, there's no shame in that game. My Death Guard, that it turns out GW makes a spray called Death Guard Green. I was like, you know what? I think it's time for spraying on the primer.
Yeah, it's like, I know what this is for.
Do we know what color the sprue is for these guys? Was it a black sprue?
Yeah, it's a black sprue.
Are there going to be any other colors?
I do not know.
Yeah, we don't know all those details, unfortunately.
Because I think the set 3 was black.
Granite Penguin asks, when would airbrushing be helpful for minis painting, or would it?
In weather like this, probably, because our weather went
painting,
from like
not priming, but just for painting, right?
Yeah. Well, for both, it could work for priming too. I prime with an airbrush, especially that's why I got it was because a decent amount of the time I can spray can prime. It's fine, but like at the heat of the summer, really hot outside, and especially humid or something, and when it's really cold, I do my airbrush.
It's also great for really large models.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Vehicles, especially Car Wars and Ogre, particularly decent.
Yeah, if you're doing vehicles and you want that really
Smooth,
consistent, smooth paint job.
I tend to airbrush base coats a lot, and sometimes some zenithal highlighting. For vehicles, I may actually airbrush on highlights that remain throughout the entire process instead of just sort of starting as a base. To get really good results with an airbrush, like you need a really expensive one, and it's a totally different kind of art form to just painting with a regular brush.
Talk about like doing
I don't.
details.
So I don't agree with that. You need an expensive one. I think you can actually do a lot. You have to practice with it, but you can do it with. I mean, it's definitely more expensive than traditional painting because, in addition to the paint.
I mean, for me, I find that with my fairly inexpensive airbrush, I just get a ton of splattering. I have a really hard time getting that really beautifully, perfectly smooth transition without lots of little splatters in it. It drives me crazy.
That's fair. I used to have a lot more splatters. I think I've gotten better with the splattering, but also that might be an issue with the needle too.
Please, Hunter, tell me your trick.
I'm not amazing, dude. I'm just saying.
How do you get it out?
My understanding
smooth
is
trigger
the pressure.
and the pressure. Yeah, it's mostly the pressure.
The
You have to adjust the pressure.
contributes the most to splattering.
Yeah. It takes some tweaking, but I've seen people with like some of the best airbrushing I've seen is people with an Iwata Eclipse, which is their like regular airbrush pretty much.
Yeah.
I have a few airbrushes, but I primarily use a Badger Patriot, which is like that's like their workhorse. If you want like this brush can be used for like priming, for whatever, like I could put gravel through that thing and it'll probably still work. Like it does it all. It was a great starter airbrush. And then for Christmas, my dad got me a Sotar, and that one's also not too expensive. It's like I think it was like $75 or something like that, $80. It is expensive. I'm not trying to say none of this is expensive. It's a long-term investment if you're painting a lot of minis. And the Sotar's awesome. That thing's got a really fine needle tip to it, and it let me do like a lot more detail work, which was nice. But I hear a lot of great things about the Iwata Eclipse, which is the Iwata's version, or no, the Iwata Neo or something like that. It's the Eclipse, though, I think. That's their kind of the same level as the Patriot, but I hear it's really good.
Does your Sotar get clogged a lot?
No, actually, I do tend to use mostly really thin stuff in the Sotar though, because I'm using it for I use a lot of contrast paint through my airbrushes. A lot of the Warhammer contrast paint, or
Just to get it applied evenly?
yeah, it applies it evenly, and I also use it for inks, which is nice for like glow effects and things like that. But I've used other stuff through it. When I did that Void Dragon for my Necron army, a lot of that was done with the Sotar, and the same with the Silent King. That was a lot. I did a lot of like Turbo Dork paints and things like that, so metallics and whatnot.
Well, maybe I need to look into getting a Sotar, because I still
nice.
have a Patriot. And
Yeah, I'm not trying to make it a Badger stream, but they do I think in January, they do a sale on their site, like a birthday sale. And it's like things become the price of however old the owner is. And I think it's going to be like he's in his 60s now, so might be a good time to get cheaper airbrushes this January right after Christmas.
yeah, I think I've looked at that before, and I never know which one to get, and so then I pass.
I hear a lot about obviously I've experienced the Sotar's nice. Patriot is a good all-arounder, but that's always the cheaper one. And then I've heard the Chrome is pretty good, and the Renegade I think are pretty good. I haven't done a first-hand experience with them though. I will say the one thing you don't really have to worry about is the compressor. A lot of people online will tell you like you need because they make airbrush compressors that are like bespoke, like name brand compressors. Like you see those at like you go to like Michael's or something like that, like craft stores that sell them. Alongside them, they'll be like a $200 compressor. You do not need that.
Well, it has to get a certain pressure, or it's worthless.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta hit the PSI. But...
Yeah, but you can get that. So like my compressor is a Harbor Freight compressor, which is the same brand that sells on like Amazon and stuff like that. It was like $35 or $40. It was like, yeah, you don't need it's
and
a
it
tank.
Gets enough PSI.
Oh yeah, it's a tank compressor. That thing, I'm only using like 20. I'm in the range of like anywhere, depending on what I'm doing, like 15 to 35 PSI, 15 to 30 PSI, and that thing could crank up even way higher than that.
Eric says the dryer is more important than the compressor.
The dryer.
You can get water in the line. You don't.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
okay.
the moisture trap. Yeah, mine just has a moisture trap on it, which again, it's the tank.
They should come with those.
Yeah, mine was built in.
So it's a little gizmo. You just buy one and put it in between the line and the compressor.
Yeah, mine has one attached to it already, but it's the same deal. So it's a moisture trap on the side of it and it works. It's got moisture.
Yep.
So one thing I'll ask on behalf of Chad, you guys keep mentioning zenithal priming. What is zenithal priming?
Oh yeah.
So zenithal priming is essentially you do not need an airbrush to do this. It's essentially usually a black undercoat, a dark undercoat, but usually black or really dark gray, and then so you just prime it like normal with that color, and then from about when I say degrees, think of like if you're holding the mini in one hand, like 45 degrees for the spray can, like so kind of at an angle
like
from
45
above.
degrees up.
Yeah, 45 degrees up. You'd hold the spray can and hit it with a lighter color. So usually, you can do this with other colors too, but like if you start with black, maybe you do a lighter gray from above. So it keeps some of the darkness in the shadows, but it's hitting with white on lighter colors on top. And you can do different amounts of it. So you can do like start at black and then zenithal with a light gray and then zenithal with a white above that. So it like has 3 levels of it.
Yep.
Essentially, it's trying to imitate your light source coming from above.
Yeah. So you're
like,
starting with lighter levels. You're just kind of building the light source into the priming rather than doing it with shading and stuff.
Yeah. It's essentially you can use thin paint like normal. If you use thin enough paints, all that kind of stuff kind of shows through. It helps with the lighting. If you're using contrast paints from Citadel or any of those type of variants like speed paint from Army Painter or There's another one. Vallejo has one too. Everyone has like a little contrast variant that they're doing now. But if you're using one of those types of paint, that's really good for that type of stuff.
Vallejo's out yet?
I think they're still working on it. It's Vallejo. I don't think it's called speed paint.
It's very similar.
It's something like that. Something. They all have a name. They're all the same thing. They're like thin down, watery paints that are meant to be one pass and you're good.
If you've got those Citadel contrast or the speed paints or any kind of glazing paint, that
Yeah.
or the
It shows up.
whatever's underneath
You
is
could
gonna show
you could do it with just thin down paints as well. You don't need that, but yes, those are.
Yeah.
It particularly works well with that.
I disagree.
With-
It's not as good when you use a thin down paint.
Okay, sure.
It doesn't coat as well. It doesn't find its way into the recesses as well.
Well, yeah.
There's
that's
a
fair.
reason why, those things have very special formulas with just the right amount of binder, just the right amount of liquid,
Oh,
just
yeah,
the right
yeah.
amount of pigment.
For sure. That's totally fair.
You can kind of make your own if you have matte or gloss medium, depending on whether you want it to be matte or glossy. You can add some matte medium to your homemade washes
Yeah.
because
Or they sell
That is-
contrast medium as well
Yeah.
from Citadel.
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the binder. That's the sort of glue that holds all the paint together, and that's why I'm saying that I don't think that just watered down paint works as well because you lose out on that binder.
You're right.
and you
When
end up-
when I meant watered, I didn't mean like fully watered. Like I don't mean contrast your paint is what I meant. I just meant like thinned paint. So you could still like if you're building up see it. But I get what you're saying.
You can see the highlighting through it still.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
as good
yeah.
as
I get what
the
you're saying, though.
Contrast paint. It's-
Yes. Don't thin your paints down to water consistency. You could add the contrast. You can add contrast medium though to it. Where it
I don't know
works.
if anybody's noticing. I'm doing lining now, and I'm just like
That's
made a
that's-
big mess.
That's how my
Apparently
lining would
Eric
go too.
wasn't talking about a trap. He was talking about an actual dryer you can add
Oh.
to the compressor.
I've never
heard of any
yeah.
of that.
I've never needed a dryer
Oh.
for mine.
The moderation bot got his message, so that's
Yeah.
the link Eric was trying to share.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, I've never needed a dryer. I do have an airbrush box, like a spray booth. There we go. There's the word I'm looking for. So I have a spray booth where it sucks the fumes back, but I still wear a mask and everything. I don't have a. Oh yeah, that's a moisture trap. I don't know, dry or filter. Sure, same difference, but yeah, I've never had an issue with if your compressor has a moisture trap, you don't need one of those in line, but you can get one in line instead of having a moisture trap on your compressor. But yeah, some things have that built into them on the compressor. And it does the same. It does the same thing essentially.
This makes a huge difference if you're working in a humid condition.
Yes.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one looks like it includes a desiccant to help dry that air.
Yep.
Dry the air out.
It's got its own do not eat packets built in.
Do not eat.
Something else I'm not supposed to eat.
Well, that's not fair. I'm gonna start
So
eating
sick of
more.
all these
than
things
I-
you're not supposed to
Because
eat.
it really helps if you're in humid
Yeah.
conditions. I can
Uh,
believe that.
I'm gonna start eating more of the paint to make up for it. If I can't eat the desiccant.
Dude, I save all those do not eat packets in one big gallon Ziploc bag.
Start doing shots of contrast paints.
Not for eating reasons, but for something spilled on a piece of electronics reasons.
Oh, that's smart.
Throw
Oh,
in
that's like a mega version of the rice thing. If you
yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
you don't get rice particles in your electronics.
But that's the fun part. You have Rice Krispies
It's
later.
just full of silica gel.
Okay, every so often you just I kind of shake and a rice thing comes out of my charging cable slot, and I like, bam, Rice Krispie right in the mouth. But yeah, that's
Everything we say on here is 100% completely true,
that's
Especially
the
that last statement.
especially the last thing. Hunter will prove it on the next stream.
if you see online, there's another thing that goes around a lot. I'm going to bring it up here. I know if you're in the hobby space, you might be tired of hearing about it, but if you haven't been in the hobby space, you might not have heard about it. It's called slap chop. It's a technique some dude named for some reason. It's called it slap chop. I don't know why. It has nothing to do with the slap chop device, but essentially it is a version of zenithaling that doesn't use an airbrush. It's just a dry brush version of it. So if you know what a dry brush is, essentially you can use like a big makeup brush or a dry brush. That different companies make bigger like dry brushes and stuff. And you do the same concept. You start with the black or dark gray or whatever, and then you kind of dry brush from the top down.
Yeah.
Those light
The
gray and
grays
then
and
lighter
whites,
gray
yeah.
and whites.
And then you add some color in.
And same thing, contrast or something, thin down, thin your paints, do your thing.
I mean, I had already been doing that. I've
Yeah,
never tried
exactly.
that
It's a thing that people already did. He just like a hobbyist named it,
yeah,
and so it became like a hot thing.
Someone shared that video in a Discord I'm in like
Yeah.
like last month, and I was like, oh yeah, I I've seen this done many a time.
Yeah,
Right.
I did that
He
when I
just
was.
named it for something off of an old infomercial for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know,
They
but
had
it
a
worked
great
out.
auto-tune
Right.
remix.
It is a quick way of doing stuff.
Slap all your troubles
I-
away with the
I-
slap
I
chop.
think the funny thing is, he's probably far enough removed now from it that he didn't know that was a thing. So
Yeah.
it's-
He may have heard the word
That's a
slap chop and didn't
very-
actually know what that it was the thing. No, I agree. And I think it's kind of a secular thing with that with like because that's like a technique I would have used in like the early 2000s, and then like zenithal and airbrushing kind of took over in the mid 2000s to today, and I think it's kind of back to where it's like, okay, we're trying to appeal to people that don't have an airbrush, which is a lot of
I
people.
think more people are getting
Yeah.
into
So
it now.
that's
you're
like,
hitting
yeah,
back to
so
the
he
older
he
techniques.
kind of remarketed it as, he's not marketing it because he's just a YouTuber, he's just a guy, a smaller YouTuber at that, and he was just like, oh, this is just a thing I do because I don't have an airbrush and it's fast. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I think, I know people got annoyed with this thing, but like, I think they got more annoyed at the fact that the word slap chop just kept getting thrown in every hobby group, but it is useful. It's, if you get a chance to look up one of those videos, I think the Honest Wargamer was the one who posted the original one.
I saw one where they was doing some sort of throne with all these vines.
I think it was something like that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it looked good too.
yeah, it looks right.
It looks
It's a,
great.
it's
yeah.
it's a good,
very easy technique.
another
to
easy
learn.
technique to learn. Great stuff. So
Dang it,
and
now I'm
then
gonna
there's
have
lots
to
of
find
Ben is more of a wet blender, glazer, because
I'm like leaning on my hand in just the right way that it's starting to fall asleep, which is not helpful.
I'll do that thing with my elbow
Your
where
hand's
like
got 15 more minutes at least.
I'll set my elbow at like a spot on the desk or something where I'm holding it and it's like hitting that one nerve for long enough that my hand will start falling asleep even though I'm like actively using it.
Yeah, that seems to be what's happening.
I need to get one of those, those wrist guards for the for your hand on like a keyboard.
Yeah.
I need to get one of those for
gel.
like the edge of my desk.
Yeah.
I think because I also where I naturally set my elbow on my desk is literally right on the corner of the desk, so it's always like punching into my elbow after like 2 hours.
I wonder why this is happening now and it's never happened before on one of these streams.
It's because you're just working so hard.
Maybe it's the weather.
Maybe it's the weather.
You're old and it's the weather, Ben. It's fine. We're all getting old, man.
No, I'm not old.
My joints. It's the weather's
My
changed.
joints.
Eric says he airbrushed all his Starfleet Battles minis in that late '80s.
Oh wow.
Yike.
Back then it was like a blowpipe. You just kind of put the paint on.
It was a straw.
Do you remember? Okay, this is completely unrelated.
Love you, Eric.
In the 90s, though, back in the days of everything had an infomercial, and they tried to sell you toys via infomercials, but it was never like Lego. It was always like these weird, creative, like it was always weird, like.
I think I know what you're talking
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
There's an obsession in the 90s with weird markers, and there was a set of blow markers
Yep.
where you like blew
Blow
the
pens,
color
right?
blow pins. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like it was that concept. It was like you
With
blew on the
stencils and
paper and
stuff.
the stencils. Oh my god! It was literally like airbrushing with your mouth.
I might have missed that part of the '90s.
Yeah, it was
Might
funny.
have been my techno rave part of the '90s.
This was the like the stuff
think-
that started coming up after Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, this was
over.
like
Like infomercials
you
and
get the
shit.
Zoo Books trailer and you get that one.
Yeah.
Zoo Books blow pins.
Yeah, that was probably when I was like, I mean, there were lots of good cartoons in the 90s, so I was watching them.
Oh, rip Kevin Conroy. I was watching
Right.
Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the best Batman.
Yep, that was my first Batman. I was too young to see the Tim Burton ones in theaters. I watched them later, but my first actual like seeing Batman on a screen was animated series. Because they could stop me from going to the theater, but they can't stop me from watching television. Well, I guess they could, but they didn't.
But they didn't.
You must have been real young, though, right?
Will
I
says
think-
they
I mean, I
still
was
sell
8
blow
when they-
pens.
Oh my god, that's not surprising. Occasionally I'll see in a store where like one of those old infomercial things, like some weird building toy or something like that I remember. It's like
Yeah.
it's still being sold because it's like I guess it would be. There's no reason for them to take it off the market if it sells just enough.
Just
We
enough
made
to
enough that we
justify.
still got 'em.
And
keeping
yeah,
it running.
yeah, Ben. I think the first one came out in '89. So yeah, I was 3 years old,
Yeah, I was 8. I was
2,
just.
2 years old because technically I was born in '86. No, it's 3.
I think
That
if
was
my
actually
parents.
the first movie I owned on DVD. Was
Yeah.
the first Batman.
DVD, interesting. You could have at
I've never
DVD
seen
levels.
it in theaters.
I think
Yeah.
the most common first DVD I think I ever saw people have, like, because I think there's always that turning point with technology where, like, you have at least back in the day. Nowadays everything's streaming, so it's different. But for a long time, like through the 90s, whatever, when things changed from like tape to CD or like VHS to DVD and whatnot, you'd have that one Christmas where like before it's like really rare to see it, and then that one Christmas happens, and like everyone gets that type of thing. And I remember the one Christmas, and it was like I knew DVDs were there. Was everyone got a copy of like X-Men, the first X-Men movie on DVD, and it was like everyone suddenly had X-Men on DVD, and I was like, oh, okay,
'Cause that's what came
they're
out.
here.
close
Yeah,
to
it was
Christmas
like
that year.
X-Men and like the original Spider-Man came out, and it was
Mm.
like that was like DVDs were suddenly there. Like it was the big, but that makes sense. Batman on DVD. It's always like some kind of big blockbustery popcorn
Yeah.
movie that
Yeah.
makes you. That's like that's the moment. That's the switch
It's on
over.
the shelf right next to all the Titanic VHS copies.
Exactly, and that was the. Oh my god, man! I remember when Titanic came out on VHS, and that was the gift of the season or whatever. And you're like, oh,
Yeah,
here's
that would
3
have been
tapes.
VHS still. In
Yeah, I was
97.
also not 3 in 1989 Grand Penguin.
Yes.
Well, so back to that Batman. The craziest thing I remember about the Tim Burton Batman in theaters was that when you like marched into the theater, they gave everybody this catalog full of like crazy Batman
Yes.
junk merch.
I've seen that
That's
catalog.
probably worth like a fortune now. The
Mhm.
catalog and any of the crap in it.
Yeah.
I remember there was like a $2,000 Batman rhinestone leather jacket thing. It was just
That's
like
so good.
ridiculous, and these like weird, super expensive framed prints of something.
Yeah, it was one of the
related
first
to the
movies that really had
movie.
the marketing onslaught like that.
Yeah.
Because like the Prince soundtrack and all that stuff, all the tie-ins, and yeah, the catalog. Which it was interesting because I watched a little mini documentary about the release of Batman and how it changed like media and stuff like that. And yeah, it was. They showed that catalog and they showed the times, and I'd never seen that before. I was like, that is so cool. That is
I don't remember that catalog. but
yeah, it was probably only like on release weekend, and that movie was in theaters for a while. So
It's back when movies were still in theaters for
well,
a
you
while.
had to
Yeah.
because rent.
Yeah, I remember
Stuff.
I saw like a preview of Batman before it officially came out, so maybe they didn't have that printed yet. Because I don't remember that catalog. It sounds cool.
Yeah, I wish I was old enough to have seen it in theaters. That would have been cool. My first like adult movie, not adult, it would actually yes, adult. My first like adult movie I was allowed to see in theaters was the 1 week that Jurassic Park was PG-13 instead of rated R. They when
Wait,
Jurassic Park first released,
What?
it was PG or is it PG? No, it either went from PG to PG-13 or I think it went to PG to
It
PG-13.
may have gone from PG to PG-13.
Yeah, sorry.
It was
My
never
parents let
rated
me-
Sure it
R.
wasn't on.
Yeah, it wasn't R, sorry. But it was the 1 week, so it released at PG, and then the week later they were like, never mind, it's PG-13. But we saw it on the release, and my parents were like, it's PG, they can see it. And I was like, yes.
This is weird, Hunter. I think you're the first person I've talked to whose parents were like as concerned about their kids seeing violent movies
Yeah,
as
don't
mine were.
Trust me, it was,
I
yeah.
had a hard time getting to see anything.
It took me forever
Did
to
you
see,
have that
like...
one friend who would like whose parents would let him watch
Oh,
anything?
yeah,
and you could
Philip
go
was
over
that
there?
friend.
Oh, yeah.
So just
That's
fun, yeah. So I think I mentioned it before, but Philip, our warehouse manager, I've known him since I was like a child. We grew up together, and his parents would let him watch like Terminator and
Yep.
Alien and all that stuff. And I was
Yep.
like, what do I get to watch? They're like The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Lion King. I'm like, I like these movies, but like, what's the other stuff? It did. I will say it stunted my ability to watch horror movies for a long time, because anyone that I know that grew up with like seeing like Friday the 13th and stuff like that, they didn't. People are always like, oh, you're gonna harm your children or whatever. And in retrospect, they were able to like, now they're like able to watch horror movies. It's like, this is just a movie and it's fine. And I was like, it's too spooky. Like, Hunter, you're 17 years old. You can watch this.
I could watch anything as a kid unless it said based off of a true story, and then I would not be able to sleep for weeks. Like all the like alien abduction movies, like
Yeah.
Fire in the Sky,
Well,
and
in the
Communion.
the fire.
Because
I
they
was
were
gonna
like
say,
based on a true story, and like, oh my god, those
Fire in the
aliens are
Sky's
totally
a
real.
crazy movie, man. The scenes in that movie, like the kind of like abduction scenes, are really crazy.
I was kind of shocked at how trippy it was. Just
yeah,
like
it
like,
got gross.
yeah,
And then in the 90s,
it
everyone
got kind of Cronenberg.
even on TV, they would do all those like alien autopsy, alien abduction. They don't do so many like quote unquote
yeah, the
real
90s were the
life.
golden age of like of alien nonsense.
It was like pre X-Files, before X-Files really blew it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always fun. No, I didn't get to watch any of that stuff.
And now we live in this weird era of
So-
ancient aliens who did literally everything in history.
Humans can't do anything.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of 80s movies because when I was little, we had HBO.
Yeah.
And so you could see like all the 80s
lucky.
movies.
So-
And then like about 86, 87, we moved and didn't have cable anymore.
Oh no.
So like then it was like I had to go to the movies and we moved to a rural place. So it was like we had to go like an hour to the movies.
It was a long time
So-
before I figured out that we were stealing our cable.
no.
Because we had we had black boxes compared to everyone else. I was always wondering like why does no one else have a channel changer like we have? Whenever I go to other people's houses, and it was like
Don't worry about it.
literally not till I was like out of school, like until I was like in college, before I pulled one out and I was like, because someone's like, oh, did you have a black box? And I'm like, did I have a what now? They're like, a black box, and I'm like, I looked at it, I'm like, you got me.
So like there are a lot of 80s movies I saw a lot. Like I watched Ghostbusters a lot.
See,
I watched
I didn't get to watch HBO that much. We had it because of that,
Yeah.
but my parents wouldn't let me watch it that much. I did get to see stuff on there during the day. Like I saw Pee-wee's Playhouse and stuff like that when it was still like on.
That's fine. Your
I got
parents
to see
surely
Mr.
didn't have
Show
an
when it came
objection
out,
to
which
that,
was-
right?
I will say, yeah, exactly. I will say, getting to see Mr. Show when it was like happening was like a really good. That formed my comedy sense a lot. That and like Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, I remember I had a bunch of friends that recorded that, so we could watch it later.
That was a lot of fun. I loved sketch comedy stuff, but yeah, I didn't get to watch all the horror stuff. A lot of memories of seeing stuff on, and then oh man, like I'd go to a friend's house and they watched It, the original It, and that. So I have a thing with clowns.
That wasn't that scary. That was made for
as
television.
a child, you do not understand. So I had a massive fear of clowns, and my room was full of clowns. And then also that
Maybe
like,
you should have taken the clowns out of your room.
I didn't choose the clowns. I had a shared room with my brother.
Oh.
And for some reason, growing up, my parents were like, "These kids are gonna like clowns," and I'm like, "I don't like them apparently." And I remember we had this like, on my closet there was like a coin bank it was like a sock coin bank where you put coins and it would drop into a sock underneath the head. It was a clown, and then I had this poster, and every night it was above, like if I'm in my bed, it's the far wall against me, and it's a big banner on the wall, and it had every single clown from Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus on it.
staring at you as you
Every
sleep.
single clown. It was literally just a clown poster.
Sleep tight, Hunter.
Exactly. That was like my childhood. And then they're like, "Here's It," and I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" It's like, it's about clowns. I'm like, I think at that point I was like, "Oh, whatever." I wasn't super scared of them. Then I saw It, and then I was like, I'm in a nightmare.
Yeah, I will
was
say
never.
working out at or volunteering out at the haunt, the years where we do carnival stuff, people who are afraid of clowns are really afraid of clowns.
It got bad.
Like they just walk into the room and it's like, nope, I'm done. Get me out of here. I'm
Yeah.
out. I don't want the refund. Just get me out.
I mean, I don't suppose you can like elaborate. What is it about the clowns that scares you? Hunter? 'Cause
It doesn't now. It doesn't really scare me. It's fine.
But you can't go back and remember. It was. I mean, I guess fears aren't necessarily.
I don't know. I think there was just enough like
Is it the
scary.
uncanny valley thing?
I guess it's sort of like a little bit because it's human but not quite because of the
Yeah.
paint and
Well, it
everything.
also makes sense, like the media that you were like, because their faces are painted, so they're technically human, right? Like they are human, but their faces are painted and are weird. And then when all the media all the horror related media for clowns at the time was like, they were like It, where the clown is like a creepy monster, or Killer Clowns from Outer Space, another one that got me, where
Yep.
they're crazy aliens that like.
I
blow
actually
people up.
saw somebody in
They
a
are
decent
just
Killer Clowns
not quite
costume this
human,
Halloween.
and then marketed as actually not quite human.
Yeah, exactly.
and hostile.
Exactly.
I think you can't trust clowns.
Yeah, you can't trust them. And there's also like there's a lot of like, I think, was it Poltergeist, where there was a clown doll.
Yeah.
Literally, they were targeting me.
We had
The entire
I
80s
forget-
were designed to make Hunter uncomfortable
Yeah.
and upset.
I forget what the theme was this particular year, but one of the rooms was just a kind of an old timey like cabin room
Mhm.
with a lot of like fireplace and a bunch of shelves, and all the shelves were lined with dolls.
Jeez. Nope.
Dolls are also
You know,
Haunted doll watch.
dolls, and then one like life-size person done up as a doll,
Great.
nice.
Wonderful.
just sitting in a chair.
Yep, we love that.
And that was another room where you could tell like there's where some people
almost
was
worry,
clowns,
like,
some people was creepy dolls.
People
some
would
people-
freak
then
out and
about
attack
creepy
them or
clown
something.
dolls.
they
No.
just walk in and be like, no.
Don't all know what this is.
Get me out of here.
That's one that never affected me. Dolls or clowns. I still scoff at how many haunted doll movies have. They're trying to make that the new. I don't know.
They're not trying.
zombie.
They
There are
to-
lots
they
of haunted
totally
doll
made it.
movies.
That is-
Haunted
that
doll
thing's an
movies.
industry now.
It's just
Yeah.
been for a while.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it.
I mean,
The
what
trailers
was-
are, oh, what if there was a doll and it was super creepy and we made a movie about it?
It talked
Like,
about it in his voice.
yeah, okay, that's a thing that could happen.
I mean, they did the whole Annabelle series, which was off of that stuff, and then they did before that was what's it?
Chucky.
Well, Chucky, obviously, yep. But no, I was thinking
He
of
wasn't
the
really
one.
a haunted doll. I mean, he
puppet-
was like an angry,
puppet- what
crazy
was
He was
puppet.
possessed.
He ran
He was a
around and
possessed doll.
What was the one with the three doll, like the drill head and the
oh,
The,
Puppet Master.
puppet master? Yeah, they were puppets, but same concept.
Yeah,
Those were great. I love Puppet Master.
I love the
but I mean, those
designs.
were like distinctly grotesque. They weren't like these old.
They were like
timey
Garbage Pail
children
Kids,
dolls.
but dolls.
Yeah.
What are you picking out right now, Ben? On the top of the
I'm just
charts?
doing some black areas. I've got the guns. I've got this weird sort of plating in the back. I just realized I missed the communications tower, which I usually do in the same, excuse me, red as, or, whatever the body color of the ogre is.
Tried to remind him. No, I didn't.
So I'm going back in there to take care of that. I haven't decided the secondary batteries come out of this weird sort of oval formation, which I guess is going to be a different color from everything else. I'll probably start on a black base coat. Usually when I do a black base coat, some kind of metal is coming next. And for this, it would probably be like a non-metallic metal. So I'd try to do some sort of silvery blues, silvery grays over it. Build up the illusion of reflections and stuff. Let's try to get this tower done first because it should have been done already.
Nice.
I can get these plates on the side. That might be a little bit too much shadow along the sides. It's a very, very dark purple kind of color.
Someone in the panel last night was asking Steve crossover, like media crossovers, and was one of the examples he was, what would we see, an ogre anime? And I was like,
Ogre
that would be sick.
Yeah. Anybody watching? So I've actually got pure red, and it's very thin, and I'm kind of glazing it over just to tone down the darkness.
We'll do
of
some
my
close-ups
shading
at
on
the
the
end here.
side. And I'm also kind of using it on these weird little oval shapes because they're jutting out, so they shouldn't be as dark as the surrounding area either. They should kind of be catching some light from above.
Nice.
Granite Penguin asks, do you usually have a vision in mind, or do you just kind of go where you feel?
I guess it depends. I try to have a vision in mind from the start. But if I don't have one, I can usually just sort of bring it together. For this one, it's really just, the vision is just, it's red. And then kind of once I would have the whole thing red,
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. It's just
Yes, you
like
are.
the vision it's red.
that is the vision. But yeah, then once all the red is down and I've kind of got the metal areas picked out, I probably would try to find something that might want to be like a nice sort of accent color to go with it, maybe yellow or blue, and just maybe do a line here or there, or maybe find some panels, like we've got some panels up on the top that could be yellow maybe or something, or maybe even these sort of 6 shapes we've got down here. Those could be yellow, something like that.
The high concept version. It's red.
It's red.
What is
The
that,
red
sir?
one.
It's some sort of tank.
The red.
Can you tell me anything about it?
It's red.
It's red.
What are your L5 Cs? It's red.
Well, that's I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's kind of like ogres. I think of them, and I think this is actually in the background. It's not that different from Space Marines in 40K, like the color of these vehicles is kind of like their heraldry and has something to do stuff to do with their nation.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's a ton of them in the lore. Like,
yeah.
especially Steve let people go buck wild around the time of Designers Edition. Like, you can check those. Like, that's the cool thing also about Designers Edition and some of the ones we did with that. Those sheets that we did.
Oh,
You
people
can
can
use
design
those
their
as
sheets.
direct references because we have so many different colors available on those.
Yep.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
But I mean, yeah, there's mercenary companies, and I think the point is like camouflage doesn't really help you in the ogre setting because they've got radar,
That's
they've
true.
got like, don't bother trying to camouflage
Yeah,
yourself.
there's enough tech that by and large the camouflage is not gonna.
So yeah,
It's not really a visual recognition for most.
so you go
cases.
into battle proudly with your nation's colors
Yeah, it's not
painted
like
on your hull.
It's not like an infantry person's going to look at the horizon and be like, "Wow, that mountain's moving towards us."
Yeah,
Crazy.
What sort of camo do you paint a 3-story tank?
right.
You don't.
Well, half of it's the sky and half of it's the ground.
Any camo at once.
That would be a funny camo thing to do.
Although they do look cool with camo paint.
Yeah,
jobs.
they do.
I would think like not the foliage camo, but you do the geometric camo.
Well,
where
you can do active camo and have it be reflective.
Isn't that just called dazzle camo?
Yeah, sure. I called it active, whatever. But there's a liquid chrome that I saw that people have been using that's like extremely light chrome, like not metallic, like it is chrome.
I want
And
some of that.
I'd be like, I can find a link, probably send it to you, but there's a liquid chrome and like doing an entire ogre with liquid chrome and having it be like hyper reflective and just be like everything's like sure you see it on radar, but then it's like it's just like trees and the sun and stuff.
Make sure you drive into the sunset towards them. Why? Because they won't be able to see.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to hit you with anything.
Will says dazzle pattern ogres are cool.
I wonder if did we do any of those in Designer's Edition?
Don't know.
I think we
there's
saw
like at least
a
one
couple,
tiger ogre.
Yeah,
Isn't
we
there?
saw the tiger. We
Tiger
might
for
see
sure.
some of the other ones because that was where people were designing their own
Yeah.
templates and stuff for the high level backers got to design a template or a paint job or their own sheets in some cases.
Yeah, I remember some of those were stretch goals and stuff. I have a bunch of those. The Nihon was one, and then of course there's the Vatican. That's like a big crowd favorite.
That's the purple one, right? They're
Yep,
like purple and yellow.
I am gonna go ahead and just do this whole
Yeah, actually restart that one and just do it in Vatican
big
colors,
dome.
please. Thank you.
I thought about it honestly, but purple and yellow are even harder to do than
I'm
red.
a huge purple guy. Huge fan of purple.
A Vatican Mark II would be pretty cool. We have a Vatican Mark III somewhere.
We do,
around
yeah.
here.
It was in the case. I don't know where it ended up, but it was in the case.
It's around. Hopefully, it hasn't wandered off. I mean, these are sentient tanks, so
They're taking a cruise.
yeah, they're just doing what they do.
Do the do.
So how is that new fruit whatever Mountain Dew flavor, Hunter?
Oh no, fruit quake.
Fruit Quake.
It's good.
Is it?
I think it's going to be a very divisive flavor, because it is a unique flavor. It's supposed to emulate fruitcake. Essentially,
I don't like it already.
Yeah, exactly. It essentially is like Mountain Dew Code Reds. It's like a cherry base, but then it's got like a little bit of a bitterness to it, but not in like a terrible way. Like almost like if you've ever had like a mulling spice, almost.
Yeah.
Like a nutmeggy
Nothing you're
thing
saying
going on.
is going over well with me.
And it's essentially like, I don't know if anyone remembers this. This is one of my favorite old sodas. It was around for like a year. It's called Pepsi Holiday Spice. And it was essentially Pepsi with holiday spice. It was like
I thought that was
nutmeg.
Flush
Flush
it
the Spice
down
Girls.
the toilet.
Huh?
I thought that was when Pepsi like did the Spice Girls commercial.
No, holiday spice. There's a group on Facebook that's like bring back holiday spice and stuff. It's one of those types of things. It's like people. It's like if the McRib came for 1 year and then went away forever, people would be begging to bring it back, even though it's not.
The 14
Amazing.
people that like Crystal Pepsi.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, they got Crystal Pepsi back. I still haven't gotten my holiday spice back. But essentially, it's like Code Red holiday spice to me. It's a little tamer. It doesn't have like, it's not like a super strong cinnamon nutmeg thing. It's just a little bit little bit of a bitter like spiciness to it. I like it. I saw some people already that were like, "This isn't my jam," and I'm like, I get it. There's a lot of things that I would like. I get that. Sometimes I'm aware like this one's gonna be divisive, but I liked it. I liked it
To
enough.
have a smaller audience.
I'm on my second 12-pack of it, so
there you go.
the holidays are really in swing.
And it's not even Thanksgiving yet.
Oh no, I just now I'm getting to my Halloween decorations. I'm about to put up all the Christmas stuff.
I'm not the only one who was seeing Christmas stuff for sale before Halloween even
Yeah, it
happened
was-
this year,
it was
right?
The Target next to me had I went there to get candy for my trick or treat bowl because I needed to top it off,
I
and
know.
they had
No.
already put up the Christmas stuff, and the candy was already gone.
I went to
That was a
Home
week
Depot for
before.
something, and like the Halloween stuff was already in the clearance area, and the shelves were empty, and they were starting to like you could see the boxes of Christmas stuff getting ready to go up on it like 2 weeks
Yeah.
before Halloween.
So I'm gonna be a little bit contrarian slightly. I do mind having Christmas stuff out before Halloween. I do not like that. I actually don't mind having Christmas stuff out before Thanksgiving because I don't really care about like Thanksgiving's like fine, but you don't like
You don't decorate.
you
for
don't need
Thanksgiving,
decorate for things. I just don't need to decorate for Thanksgiving. I'd rather just have the Christmas stuff up and just be done with it. To be fair though, this is coming from someone whose birthday is December 7th. And for no reason, they thought they were being nice to me for some reason, but my mom would not let us decorate for Christmas until after my birthday because they were like, we want your birthday to be like special and not covered up by Christmas. And I'm like, you're doing me she's like, we're doing you a favor, but I was like, I'd just rather decorate for Christmas because I like Christmas so much. So we never had our Christmas stuff up until like December 8th. So I'd have like 2 weeks of
But
it.
still, yeah, that's plenty.
No, I want my decorations all the time. I'm a holiday guy, so I like to having decorations up. I'm a fan. I wish there was actually more like
Well, you can't have
holidays.
them up all the time.
Yes,
It's
you
not
can.
special.
No,
Eric believes he knows where that Vatican ogre is, so I'm gonna go grab it. Real quick.
I wish there was more like spring holidays that like actually I cared about more to decorate for and stuff. Like a spring. Pretty much, I wish there was like a spring Halloween or like a first quarter Halloween. Q1 Halloween. Can we just do
You
that?
mean Easter?
No, that's its own thing. I like the pastels. I like Easter's a thing where like the color scheme feels very springy,
Yeah.
But like I'm fine with that. But I need like around Valentine's Day because Valentine's Day is very specific. But I don't like want to decorate for Valentine's Day. I guess
You can put up a Valentine's Day tree.
my mom used to. That was like where I got that from. She would decorate for every holiday. Like if you could think of like
That's
not
far out.
Arbor Day, but she was like. We had Valentine's Day decorations. We had St. Patrick's Day decorations. There was like Easter, summer. She decorated for Mardi Gras. It was like we just had like a seasonal like. That's why we had like That's why I think for two weeks was enough for her because she had separate New Year's decorations that she would put
dang.
up. Like we'd leave the Christmas tree up, but then
What do you
she'd
put
put
up
up
for New
other stuff. It was just a different color scheme. I don't know.
Wow.
There was just differences.
New Year's is kind of rainbowy.
New Year's for us was like black and gold.
Black and gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that.
But I never liked it that much because it's like an adult decoration thing, I think. And as a kid, I was like, green and red, green.
Yeah, it's more reserved.
We will have a stream of the Munchkin Christmas edition at some point. My jumbo Christmas box. It's my like kind of annual tradition at this point.
You know what you need to do? Do this for me. Mix all the Christmas sets with Apocalypse.
Dude, I have all those
'Cause
Christmas things
Christmas
mixed.
Apocalypse is funny. It's just funny.
Could have a
You can't
Cthulhu
deny it.
Christmas.
I don't think my set would mix well with those simply because I don't know if there's enough Apocalypse cards to impact my Christmas.
There's like 3 and then like 4 mini expansions for Apocalypse.
You
I
don't know
think.
how big the Christmas set is.
It's a pretty big set. So we did not have any ogres of the Vatican set, but there were some
I know I did.
Vatican
one.
units.
Oh,
I'm
so
gonna-
I
hope
have seen
it
the Vatican
does get
ogre, but I don't know
found.
where it's at.
They were not in the specific space there.
Yeah.
So we'll set those.
So that's the Vatican scheme.
people can see
Yeah,
the
purple
Vatican
and,
color scheme.
purple and
there.
yellow.
God, that's such a good color scheme.
We've got a mobile howitzer, a missile tank, and a super heavy tank.
Also, I've come around on Averland Sunset. I get it now.
Yeah, it helps when you need to paint yellow, man.
It's such a good yellow. It covers.
Yeah,
so
it does,
well.
Exactly.
I used it on some stuff recently, and I was like, wow.
Some stuff.
Yeah.
But some kill team stuff or some different stuff.
What else I used it on?
Maybe it was Crisis Protocol.
Something yellow.
just trying to think of what you would be
Probably.
painting.
I'm
as
trying to
yellow.
think.
None of your 40k armies are yellow.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was painting it with. I just remember I used it on something. Was it eyes on something?
I
Maybe?
bet it was Crisis Protocol stuff.
Was it Crisis Protocol? I guess you wouldn't know. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know for sure.
It's your stuff, isn't it, Hunter?
Yeah, I don't remember. Gonna be real, guys. Don't remember.
Might mean you have too many minis, but I
No,
also do.
I mean that means I'm painting them.
No,
I just don't know what it was.
no. Whoa, Ben. Whoa. Don't
Whoa,
go
calm
crazy
down.
here, man.
I painted that Sentinel. It looks good. It wasn't the Sentinel though. I was thinking it might be the Sentinel because it had yellow on it, but that wasn't what it was. Used
No, 'cause
contrast.
he had bone, right? Isn't that what we
Yeah, and
decided?
the only non-contrast paint I used on that was the base coat and the bone, and I guess the base on the gray on the base. Yeah, I can't remember, but I just used it recently. I did. It was weird. I have like 6 pots of Averland Sunset because it comes in all those get started painting kits or
Oh,
whatever.
does it? Okay.
Yeah, and I've had a bunch of those from like getting them on discounts, and like whenever I get someone's collection, they almost always have that paint in there.
Mm.
And I cracked open every bottle, and they were all in a solid chunk in the middle, but they had liquid
Aw.
around them. It was really weird. Some of them I knew were old, but some of them I don't think were that old. They were only a couple of years old. So it's like it's very weird. That one in particular seems to have a bad chunky problem, but there's nothing like
I don't.
paint that
I think
was able to
it's.
use on.
I think
Mostly
it's
that
that
paint,
cap, man. The way
Maybe,
those
but
caps
they were
work
brand
these
new. They hadn't
days.
even been opened.
Oh well, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it was weird. Like I think one had been opened and 5 of them had been brand new out of the bottle.
We've got about 6 or 7 minutes left here,
Okay. Any other questions in chat?
and with enough time to let people go run and do stuff real quick before the Munchkin panel at 3:30.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. If we go over slightly, we'll be fine. But yeah, at the Munchkin panel, that's gonna be Will and Devin.
Will and Devin.
They'll take questions, but also be talking about some of the upcoming things. Like, I'm sure if you guys haven't subscribed, we have the Munchkin Monthly newsletter that goes out, and that one has
Sleep hand.
we have a Munchkin rule every month, but also we have a lot of like sneak peeks and like little articles where we preview cards, and we've been talking about the Munchkin polyhedral sets, so we'll probably show some of those off.
And then when are you guys going to be back playing Car Wars?
We will be back at 5 p.m. with the.
Is it 5 or 5:30?
It's 5.
It's 5, and then 6:30 is the What's New panel.
Okay.
Should probably take about an hour. We're gonna be on a 2x2 playmat. The point values will be a little bit higher, but we're gonna be in a really tight zone, and there's not gonna be like a wall. We're just,
How are you going to destroy Jimmy today, Hunter?
I built my car already.
Right.
I'm gonna destroy Jimmy with big
La, la,
guns. Oh, he doesn't need. You can hear it.
I haven't built my car yet.
Doesn't
Oh,
matter. You can't counter
don't
my
meta
car.
him.
It's over.
Tal Libra says the best paint job for ogres is tiger stripes.
There you go.
That must be the Tiger.
That's the old
back
GI
there.
Joe Tiger Force.
Man, my arms or my hand is just super asleep now. I keep having to take it off. the
Tiger
table.
Force Ogre, or Python Patrol Ogre.
Python Patrol. This was Tigers and Python.
That was the old back in the 80s. The GI Joe had
They
pretty
had
much
such a long life. They did so many zany things.
Well,
throughout their
they
weird
had
long
it was
life.
a genius marketing idea. Essentially, they had the regular GI Joes, and then when they started doing like the little sub teams and stuff like that, they essentially were like, okay, we're gonna take some figures and give them tiger stripes, and then we're gonna take some Cobra vehicles and repaint them with tiger stripes and
remember
release them as
those,
GI
yeah.
Joe vehicles, like for the other side. And it's what they're called Tiger Force. They're like a secret force, and they like
Sweet.
commandeer the Cobra stuff and repaint it with tiger stripes, and it's theirs now. And then they're like, well, the Python Patrol is the same thing for Cobra, but they take the GI Joe ones and they repaint them with snake things and make them
Oh,
make them
man.
Cobra vehicles
Those
now.
no good Cobra guys.
And I was like, and I'm over here like, wait, you're telling me that this jet has a tiger stripe on it? It's mine. So yeah, anyway, I own all those tiger stripes. I have a lot of GI Joes back in the storage unit.
Granite Peregrine says the uncommon ogre sheet in the ogre stuff had a
Yeah.
white blue dazzle.
Oh, that's
ogre
cool.
On E5.
Didn't know that.
Will says Python Patrol is best.
Python Patrol is the
there we
best. Thank
go.
you. Tiger Force is cool too. I will give Tiger Force credit. You gotta like Tiger Stripes, and they had. To be fair, Tiger Force had one of the single best. So one of the best GI Joe and Cobra vehicles of all time is the Rattler. Essentially, it's an A10 Warthog just in GI Joe scale, and it's like in dark blue and red. It was a Cobra jet, and then they were like Tiger Force Rattler. It's the same thing, but it's got a tiger face
stripes.
and tiger stripes on it.
I think my favorite toy in the G.I. Joe line was the hovercraft.
Dude, the whale.
Because it actually floated. Because
Yeah.
I had a pool. So I could use
It did actually float. I don't think it was actually designed to float, but it did. Also, it's one of the rarest vehicles now because it's rarest to find complete because it had so many fiddly bits. Those
Oh yeah, the doors that come up on the
fins,
front and the fins
everywhere.
on the back.
If you found one that has like all of its depth charges and like all the fins intact and the rotor blades that work and stuff, it's like a $300 vehicle.
Wow.
I do not think mine. I think I long lost depth charges and some
I
of
was
the
actually
fins.
working on restoring one because I couldn't afford a full one, so I was like buying bits and pieces and rebuilding one from scratch.
I gave my little cousins permission to shoot all that stuff at the BB gun.
Well, so when I was like, I
Cobra
was
would be proud.
I collected a lot of my G.I. Joe stuff when they re-released stuff during the 25th anniversary, which used like a lot of the original molds, but they updated the figures to be like more modern. But in like the late 80s, early 90s, when the reason I had so much nostalgia is because I watched the TV shows a lot growing up.
Yep.
But by the time I was getting figures, it was the 90s, and in the 90s they were like not what they looked like in the cartoon. They were crazy. They were all neon colors, and they had gigantic like missile firing rocket launchers, stuff like that. So I always had this nostalgia. I wanted once I saw the cartoon and stuff. But all the ones I had in the 90s, we set those things on fire with fireworks for sure. I remember Dr. Mindbender was definitely in trouble. Like we tied him to like piles of firecrackers and literally melted him.
One of the figures I played with a lot is they did. What was the dude had like the black triangle eye makeup and the red hood?
Black Tri-
These are the Xanthar.
Executioner?
No.
No. Oh, you're talking about Zartan.
Zartan. Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of Helmet, but yeah.
Zartan, because
Yep.
they made him with a like a sunlight
Color
color
changing,
change model.
And he came with the skiff, the swamp
Yeah.
skier. So they've been doing 6-inch GI Joes, like bigger scale GI Joes with more modern takes, and they did a Zartan. They did one that had the color change gimmick, and they did one that had like the alternate faces that you could put the different faces on them. It's pretty cool. I like those. The Dreadnoks, those guys are cool too. They're all the punk Australians essentially.
Got it.
Oh yeah.
One of the best bios, because they all have those like data cards or whatever,
Yeah,
file
the
cards.
File card on the back. Yeah.
One of my favorite ones is there's a guy for Cobra who's I think his name's not Falcon. I forgot what his name is, because Falcon was a GI Joe, but he was a guy who dressed like a bird and was the Cobra Falconer. And his file card was like he was a lawyer who started a bird training thing. It was like Cobra's lawyer and also their bird tamer. Who was that guy? I can't remember his name off the top of my head for some reason. The Cobra Falconer. If I search Cobra Falconer, it's gonna come up immediately. Tomax and Zaymot were also cool because they were like the twins that shared.
Yep. I
shared
remember
the-
them from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not collect G.I.
Raptor was
Joes
his
at all.
name. And this
You were
is
so sure it wasn't Raptor.
Jimmy. I'm telling you, man.
He looks like a lawyer.
Yeah, he looks like a lawyer to me, right?
Let me see.
He does not look like a lawyer.
Oh, I remember
Oops.
that dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Raptor.
So the question is, was he the inspiration for Harvey Birdman and
I was
Attorney at
just
Law?
about to say, that's the original
Exactly.
Harvey Birdman. Cobra the lawyer.
I guess when when you're like a Cobra lawyer, you have to stake your claim somewhere else because
Right.
probably enough evil lawyers joining Cobra.
What do I want to be known for? Being Cobra's lawyer or being Cobra's falconer?
And wear the falcon head.
Yeah.
Gotta wear that falcon head, guys.
Let's go ahead and when you finish that, Ben, let's throw it on the deck so people can see where we're at because we're probably at our stopping point here.
Yeah.
Yeah, show it off. Show off
Alright.
your Tiger Force Ogre. I mean regular.
I was trying to get all the like guns and
Man,
circuits.
now I
and
want to do a
weird
Python
stuff
Patrol Ogre.
off on. Let's get these cool guys away.
Yeah. Get out of here. Whoever painted you. Wait a
Yeah, I was
minute.
trying to get all the black, all the circuits and metal and other stuff.
Nice.
Black. Ah, there it is. There's the center. Do I have it?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Man, your paint jobs in an hour are always just so stunning to me because you get so much. Like you make the metal plates look metal in such a short amount of time to me.
Yeah, I still need to. I would if this was like a real paint job, though, it's just so much that still needs to be smoothed out.
Yeah, but I mean, this is your. I've done. Like, you could always go further from here. Like, you
Yeah.
not. It's not like a not real paint job. It's just you're not done potentially to your standard yet.
Right.
But for a lot of people, this would be like throw it on a table, and they'd be super proud of that.
Well, there's still some primal parts shown through.
Well, I mean,
Get
you know
rid
what I
of
mean.
those
Like
and
throw,
then maybe,
like
yeah.
the idea, very close. Like, I mean, I'll throw that on my table as I'll be fine.
And then the those black areas could all just be dry brush metal, and that could be done pretty quick.
And treads aren't too hard if you want to make them easy. They can be just dark because they're treads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ben, did you have fun?
I did.
Thank you for coming on
I've always
Saturday,
liked
by the way.
Mark II.
Yeah.
He's a cool little guy. I thought I was liking the Mark I, but it was just the Mark II I was liking the whole time.
He's a cool little guy. That was fun. I'm glad we got to do that one and got to get a little sneak peek of what's coming in Miniatures Set 4. So this is going to be a future project. We don't have exact dates for it yet, but keep an eye out for it. If you collected the other the other Ogre Miniature sets, nice little expansion for that.
Yep.
Ben, do you have any like sneak peek on any of the other units that are in that one, or
Um,
not to show, but just like so we know?
It's like I think before it was combine tanks.
Okay.
That we already have, I think, combine tanks, combine grav. So now it's Pano tanks, Pano.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Grav.
So we're seeing like an inverse on some of that stuff.
Yeah. So
Cool.
it's different sculpts of lots of things that already exist. So you can have the other side too.
That'd be fun, yeah. Because they have the
but-
Doppelsoldner and stuff like that, which is kind of the other side of the
Yeah.
flipped coin of
Yeah,
the ogre.
yeah. And I think the Doppel is part of it. Maybe I should have painted that one too. We painted it a while back.
Well, there's another one too. Cause that
No,
was,
we already did the Doppel.
yeah, that was in
didn't
set
we?
3.
Yeah, that was set 3. Okay.
That was set
Okay,
3.
That's right. I was right to not paint that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're all really cool, and they look very significantly different, especially like the hovercraft. The new hovercraft are the ones that have like 4 feet almost.
Oh, I've never seen
and,
those. That's cool.
The tanks look a little bit more 20th century, I would say. They're not quite so like sleek with all the hard lines, because the ones that we have now are very geometric. These feel a little bit more like modern. They all just have a different look to them.
Oddly enough,
kind of cool in their own different way.
A little more current versus futuristic.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it's like modern, but technically they're futuristic, but also they're retro because we designed those in the 80s. It's an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, but I think those were all out there in metal.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
you can go hunt images of those down.
Yep. If you can find all the minis that are pretty much, you can look at the stuff that's been released and look at our it's the metals that we haven't released. Kind of.
Granite Pigment says it's Pan-European that's out now. Set 4 is the Combine unit.
Oh, okay, perfect. So
Okay.
we always reverse the factions. Sorry.
All right, so in about 6 minutes in the Discord panel 1, we're going to have Will and Devin doing the Munchkin Q&A panel. So join us there in Discord. And then back here at 5 o'clock, so in about an hour and a half, Hunter and I will be back for another Car Wars match on the small 2x2
Yeah, it's going to be
City Blocks
brutal.
map.
Higher points. We decided higher points.
Higher points, smaller
but
space.
Smaller space,
Yeah, that's
no
gonna be
cover.
rough.
We are going to be killing each other. We might do one wall, but it's not going to be
I think probably we'll be doing more terrain because the mats have stuff printed on them.
That's true. We can do terrain
It'll
rules.
probably be terrain rather than obstacles.
Yeah.
But yeah, go run
It's
and
going to be more about how driving
get your
works.
snacks. Take your bathroom break before the Munchkin panel starts.
Yeah,
You
you'll
got
want to
like
check that out.
5
There's a
minutes.
lot of stuff. If you checked out Munchkin Witches, there's a lot of stuff hitting it because the add-ons for that, we had Munchkin Squids, Munchkin Cows, Munchkin.
Also, well, let's save it for the Munchkin panel that they're about to go to.
Look at just those will be good questions for them. Is all I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm just preloading.
Preloading
Check
the
out,
questions.
if you want to look at stuff to ask them questions about, look at Munchkin Witches because there's so much in there that we have not showed anything about. And also remember Time Warp. Just ask about Time Warp. I'm sure they'll be talking about it.
All right, cool.
Munchkin 10.
We'll see you
All right.
guys in about 5 minutes or so.
Thanks a lot
See
for
ya.
watching.
Thanks,
Have
everybody.
an awesome rest of the Fnordcon, and I'll see you probably in a month or so painting something else. So long.